This video is brought to you by Delta Trainer, a personal trainer on your wrist. Get personal training at a fraction of the cost of traditional training. More on them in a bit. At 11:30 a.m. on May the 12th, 1913, a man was taken from his cell at the Nevada State Prison in Carson City and led out into the prison yard. There, he was strapped into a chair in front of a wall of sandbags and prepared for execution by firing squad. But instead of a group of trained marksmen, the man found himself facing a strange metal contraption to which were bolted 3 rifles. That man, Andrija Merkovich, was about to become the first and last man in American history to be executed by shooting machine. Andrija Merkovich was a 31-year-old silver miner of Montenegrin descent who had emigrated to Nevada from the Austro-Hungarian Empire in 1911. Barely literate and speaking little English, Merkovich was described by his co-workers as being quick-tempered and easily insulted. On February the 23rd, 1911, Andrija's cousin Christopher Merkovich was killed in a fire at the Tonopah-Belmont silver mine. As Christopher did not have a will, the government of Nye County appointed fellow Montenegrin John Gregovich to settle his estate. Following Nevada probate law, Gregovich disbursed the majority of the $2,500 estate, about $70,000 today, to Christopher Merkovich's siblings, Maria and Vaso, with only $50 going to Andrija. Andrija, believing he had been cheated out of his fair share, flew into a rage and began making death threats against Gregovich. The threats got so bad that on several occasions Gregovich was forced to eject Andrija from his office, and on November the 14th, 1911, he successfully petitioned the district judge to be released as executor of Christopher Merkovich's estate. Now left with no further recourse, Merkovich swore vengeance against Gregovich. On the morning of May the 14th, 1912, Gregovich was at the Tonopah and Goldfield Rail Depot speaking to a Dr. J.R. Masterson when Andrija Merkovich stormed up to the platform wielding a knife. With a cry of, "I will get you, you son of a..." Merkovich stabbed Gregovich twice in the chest and groin, puncturing his lung and femoral artery. Luckily, Dr. Masterson was able to clamp the severed artery with a hemostat from his medical bag, but despite this intervention, John Gregovich died of shock later that afternoon. Merkovich was apprehended soon after the stabbing, and a trial date was set for the next month. On June the 15th, 1912, Andrija Merkovich was convicted of premeditated murder and sentenced to death. During his sentencing, Merkovich was informed of a Nevada statute passed the year before, which allowed the condemned to choose execution by either hanging or firing squad. The statute had been passed at the behest of the state's Mormon community, whose doctrine of blood atonement held that eternal sins like murder could only be atoned for by spilling the sinner's blood on the ground. Knowing that hangings were often botched, leading to a slow, agonizing death, Merkovich requested to be executed by firing squad. But there was a problem. Execution by firing squad requires at least 3 executioners, and despite weeks of searching, George W. Cowing, warden of the Nevada State Prison in Carson City, was unable to find 3 volunteer marksmen willing to shoot Andrija Merkovich. With the set execution date of August 29th fast approaching, Cowing desperately tried to dissuade Merkovich and convince him to accept hanging instead. But Merkovich refused to back down, and Cowing, having run out of options, instead ordered the construction of a mechanical firing squad or a shooting machine. Cowing's machine took the form of a 1,000-pound steel frame to which were mounted 3 Savage Model 1899 lever-action rifles fitted with Maxim suppressors. This frame was encased in metal sheeting to form an execution chamber which prevented witnesses from seeing the executioners and the executioners from seeing the condemned. The rifles were operated by spring mechanisms triggered by the cutting of 3 strings. Prior to the execution, 1 rifle was to be loaded with a blank cartridge. 3 prison guards, randomly selected by drawing lots, would then simultaneously cut the strings so that, as in a regular execution by firing squad, none of the 3 would know who fired the fatal shot. By the time the shooting machine was ready, Warden Cowing had already resigned, having wanted nothing more to do with the affair. It thus fell to his successor, Denver Dickerson, to preside over the unusual execution. On the morning of May the 12th, 1913, Andrija Merkovich was calm as a doctor pinned a cloth marker over his heart, and the prison guards aligned the rifles on the shooting machine. Refusing a blindfold, he thanked Warden Dickerson for his kind treatment before speaking his last words: "I die like a soldier." Then, in the presence of 12 witnesses, the guards cut the strings and the 2 live rounds pierced Merkovich's heart, killing him instantly. The shooting of Andriy Markovich was the first and last execution by firing squad carried out in Nevada. The 1911 statute was repealed in 1921. It was also the only use of Cowing's shooting machine, which remained in storage for 30 years before being donated as part of a wartime scrap metal drive in 1942. The rifles from the machine remained in the prison armory until they were rediscovered in 1977 and are now on display at the Nevada State Museum in Carson City. Today, 29 U.S. states employ capital punishment, with the primary execution method being lethal injection. However, in 11 states, the condemned can choose to be executed via an alternative method: by electric chair in Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Virginia, by gas chamber in Arizona and California, and yes, by firing squad in Utah, Mississippi, and Oklahoma. Now, just before we get into the bonus fact today, I do want to take a quick moment to tell you about today's sponsor, Delta Trainer. Now, maybe you've been a bit like, boy, if I had a personal trainer, I could finally get fit, I could stop messing around, and I could actually get things done. Or maybe that's just me. Well, normally, that's absolutely mad expensive, but good news, Delta Trainer brings you a personal trainer at a fraction of the cost. In their welcome box, which you get delivered, you get an Apple Watch, which is included. Slap that on your wrist, and it will provide data to your personal trainer who'll analyze that data and give you advice on how to improve your workout. It uses advanced motion analysis technology to detect your sets, reps, and their difficulty from anywhere in the world. It's pretty incredible stuff. To get started, you're looking at $25 off your first month using the link below. Then it's just $100 a month, which is a fraction of the cost of having a traditional trainer. And let's get into that bonus fact. Today, the term electrocuted generally refers to the receiving of an electric shock, whether or not said shock is fatal. However, as originally coined, the term specifically meant to kill with electricity, and is in fact a combination of the words electric and execution. The term originated during the War of the Currents in the late 19th century, in which Thomas Edison's direct current and Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse's alternating current distribution systems fought for supremacy of America's nascent power grid. As part of a concerted effort to convince the public that alternating current was the most dangerous of the two systems, Edison and his associates took to kidnapping stray dogs and other animals and electrocuting them in a series of gruesome public demonstrations. Then, in 1888, Edison ramped up the campaign by involving himself in ongoing efforts to develop a brand new method of capital punishment, the electric chair. In 1886, following a series of highly publicized botched hangings, a New York State Commission, headed by human rights advocate Elbridge Gerry, began searching for a more humane means of executing condemned prisoners. Drawing on prior work by engineer Alfred P. Southwick, now regarded as the father of the electric chair, Edison and his associate Harold P. Brown suggested the use of electricity, specifically alternating current from a Westinghouse generator. When the New York State Legislature eventually approved the construction of the first electric chair at Auburn Prison, Brown managed to secretly acquire and install 3 Westinghouse generators, ensuring that Edison's rival would be associated with the newfangled device. Edison even tried to popularize the term Westinghoused to refer to execution by electric chair. The first person to be executed by electric chair was William Kemmler, who in 1889 was convicted of killing his wife Matilda with a hatchet. The execution took place at 7 a.m. on August 6, 1890, and although the electric chair had been successfully tested on a horse the day before, Kemmler's death did not go as planned. Kemmler was first hit with a pulse of 1,000 volts for 17 seconds, after which the attending doctor, Edward Spitzker, initially declared him dead. But witnesses soon noticed that Kemmler was still breathing, prompting Spitzker to call for the current to be turned back on. Kemmler was duly hit with another pulse of 2,000 volts, which, to the witnesses' horror, caused blood vessels in his heart to burst and his hair to catch fire, filling the room with the stench of burning flesh. In the end, it took a full 8 minutes for Kemmler to be declared dead, hardly the quick, humane death the electric chair's inventors had intended. Indeed, when questioned about the affair, George Westinghouse quipped, "They would have done better with an axe." Yet, despite this horrifying start, the electric chair remains in use today in 6 US states. Not that this helped Edison's campaign. In the end, Westinghouse would triumph in the War of the Currents, and alternating current remains the preferred electricity distribution system the world over. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Please do check out Delta Trainer as well. There is a link to them below. And thank you for watching.